Some of the deepest wounds in our lives did not start with us. Joseph's story in Scripture does not begin with dreams. It does not begin with prophetic gifting. It does not even begin with the pit. Joseph's story begins with a coat and with a grieving father. Jacob had loved Rachel with the kind of love that reshapes a man's entire life. Scripture tells us he labored 14 years just to marry her. 14 years of work, 14 years of endurance, 14 years of hope. But that love story was complicated by deception, rivalry between sisters, and a tense household. Then Rachel finally gave Jacob the son he had longed for, Joseph. And years later, when Rachel gave birth to Benjamin, she died in childbirth. Now pause there, because grief changes people. Jacob did not process Rachel's death, he carried it. And when grief is not healed, it searches for somewhere to live. It finds vessels. The love Jacob once poured into Rachel began to pour into Joseph, and out of that wounded love, a coat was born. Scripture says Jacob gave Joseph a coat of many colors, a garment that marked him as favored above his brothers. But the coat was never really about Joseph's greatness. The coat was about Jacob's grief, and the brothers saw it. Every time Joseph walked through the house wearing that coat, it was a visible reminder of the love they were not receiving. Favoritism became the spark that ignited jealousy, resentment, and eventually betrayal. Joseph was not simply thrown into a pit because he had dreams. He was thrown into a family system that had been wounded for generations. And that story did not start with Jacob. It started 3 generations earlier. Abraham was called out of his homeland, leaving behind the family structure that once provided identity and belonging. Isaac grew up in a household marked by the trauma of nearly being sacrificed. Jacob fled his home because his brother wanted to kill him. And the years he spent with Laban were filled with manipulation, deception, and rivalry between the 2 sisters competing for one man's affection. By the time Jacob became a father, he had never witnessed peaceful fatherhood. He had never seen healthy family dynamics modeled before him. So he fathered the way wounded people often do. He fathered from his pain. Now here is the powerful truth. Scripture never presents generational patterns as destiny. They are tendencies. They are grooves worn into the soil of a family by repeated choices and unhealed wounds. But grooves can be interrupted. Joseph interrupted them. Joseph went from the pit to the palace, not just because he could interpret dreams, but because God used his process to transform him. The betrayal did not make him bitter. The prison did not destroy his purpose. The process produced wisdom, maturity, and the capacity to break cycles that had been running through his family for generations. And maybe that is why this story still speaks to us today. Because many of us were born into family systems where the wounds were already there before we arrived. Favoritism, jealousy, silence, betrayal, unspoken grief. But Joseph's story reminds us that your beginning does not determine your ending. God can take the pit, the betrayal, and the broken family system and turn it into a process that prepares you for purpose. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to go deeper. In my book, From the Pit to the Process, I walk through Joseph's journey with biblical insight and trauma-informed understanding to help you recognize generational patterns, process family wounds, and discover how God uses painful seasons to prepare us for destiny. Your pit is not the end of your story. It may be the beginning of your process. You can learn more and access the full teaching in my teaching vault at drdelisarogers.com.